Greetings everyone, welcome to Chess Advanced. This game was played in FIDE World Cup and that happened in round 3. With the white pieces, we have Alexander Donchenko facing off against Anish Giri, and this is going to be an amazing matchup. So without further ado, let's start with this game. Let's see what Alexander Donchenko in the second game of the third round has for Anish Giri, and it's going to be a tough round. So let's see what happens here. Here just d4 by Alexander, and they have knight to f6, c4, e6, and just knight to c3, and bishop to b4 now going for the Nimzo Indian defense. So most likely this game is going to be decisive. Here e3 going for the normal line, castles, bishop to d3, and just rook to e8 in this position, knight to e2, and immediate striking in the center with d5, and here castles was played by Donchenko, and now just comes bishop back to f8, not trading the piece and keeping the bishop pair to be able to try and just go for a win in this position. e4 challenging the center, d captures, knight captures, and here knight captures and bishop captures was played. A lot of trades and must seem like not something you want to do, but it's absolutely fine. And knight to d7, and now just comes queen to c2, just developing the queen, also putting some pressure there. So here you need to defend it either with a move like g6, or what Anish played, he goes for f5, pushing the bishop back, bishop to f3, and in this position you could go for this very nice queen to f6. So just develop the queen, get it to an active square, and somewhere along the line even this is going to be a very nice option. And after this bishop to e3, you just go for e5, and after bishop to d5 check, now you just go for king to h8. g3 can be played, just making some room back for that bishop, because that bishop could become trapped. And here after c6, now just bishop to g2, and after queen to f7, the game goes on with both players having roughly equal chances. But still, you have to understand that white would be a little bit better, because you have the center advantage, you have the bishop pair, you can develop the pieces a lot easily, and it's difficult for black to develop that bishop because the knight is still not developed. And somewhere along the line you're going to play some moves like that, or maybe some moves like that, where you can just try to just get the knight to a decent square and then develop the bishop, but it's still at least 2 or 3 tempos away. But after bishop to f3, here just c6 was played by Anish, and now just comes g3 by Donchenko, e5 just striking in the center, and we have bishop to g2, e caps on d4, knight captures, and now just comes knight to e5, just targeting that knight here in the center of the board. And now just comes rook to d1, now very nicely aligning the rook against the queen. Queen to f6, now just playing the same moves but in a different order. You have to align the pieces to that perfect squares, those lines that I told you about. And now just comes c5, not allowing black to push c5 to be able to take the squares in the center and also to kick away the knight. But in this position just white goes for it, and white is occupying a lot of squares, so Anish needs to be careful. Anish goes for a5 and takes away some crucial squares, and takes some space in the center in the queen side here. And now just comes b3. b3 is a very nice move because you want to just fiend cat on the bishop, and that bishop is going to be a really strong piece, although you have very nice defensive resource with this bishop here. But still you need to be careful here. Queen to f7 was played, just getting out of the way preemptively. But you could have also gone for queen to e7 in this position, and you must be thinking, what is the difference? Queen to f7, queen to e7, just same thing, right? Not really, because here after bishop to a3, now you play queen to f7, and after rook to e1, just bishop to d7, just developing that. And also you want the rook there, and after bishop to b2, again just getting this there. Now you just go for f4, so you can start to create some sort of a counterplay. But again, you need to do it by shuffling pieces. Sometimes just the straightforward idea can easily be hampered by one layered with deceit is something that is not easily tackleable. But in this position here, a3 was played, and now just comes bishop to g4, and something like this would have been really nice for Anish. You have some counterplay, and that's the idea, because you can just push that. You can take away a lot of the squares, maybe even somewhere along the line even the h pawn can march forward, and you would have very nice attacking chances, although your king would be a little bit weak with the bishop already eyeing this. But it's a trade-off, and you would have sufficient chances in this position to be able to go for an attack. But here rook to e4, and the game goes on. But after b3, here queen to f7 was played immediately, and now just comes h3, not allowing anything. But you can see the injured valuation shifting in white's favor, and now just comes h6, and it seems like a waiting move, but a waiting move is something you want to play in this position. Well, that will be measured with what Donchenko plays. Is he able to find the correct idea? Does he go for bishop to b2 in this position, or does he go for the best move? He goes for the best move. He finds rook to e1, and here bishop to d7 was played. Now finally just developing that, but now just comes f4. not allowing black to push f4. And the trouble with this is that, that comes with, first of all, an attack towards the knight. And that's not the only trouble, because now white is occupying just so much space here in the center, because that f4 thrust was your only counterplay, as I showed you in the previous line. But now you don't even have that. You don't have c5, you don't have f4, you don't have anything along this diagonal. You're going to have to defend completely. The center is in white's control. The bishop is going to be developed, the rook is going to be here, the complete central squares will be in white control. So what do you have? You cannot even go for b5 in this position. So it looks to me that Anish has gotten himself into a place where it's going to be very difficult for him to get any counterplay, and that's going to be very troublesome. A knight to g6 was played by Anish, trying to, well, reroute the knight and just get it to a decent square, and it was also attacked, so you need to move it. But hey, just bishop to e3, not trading more pieces but just keeping up the pressure. And with a move like knight to e7, trying to remaneuver that to somewhere like this would be really nice. And after bishop to f2, hey, you just go for knight to d5, knight to f3, and after bishop to e6, just developing more pieces, again not going for the trade, because trading more pieces will only lead to your demise, because you're the one on the back foot. So here knight to e5, attacking the queen, queen to c7 now, and after this rook to e2, you just play knight to b4, attacking the queen, queen moves, and the game goes on with both players roughly having equal chances. You can get the rook into the game, and you can control the d file. You'll have a trade-off with the knight being very active with the bishop there, and although this bishop seems a bit too passive, it's helping out with the defense somewhere along the line, and maybe this game goes out to be a draw. With white being still better, it's difficult to say. But after all of this here, bishop to e3, rook to e7 was played by Anish, and now you can see the engine evaluation completely shifting, because there is only one move in this position that can actually get you the win, or this can get you well, very nice chances to be able to win this game. So I'm going to ask you to pause the video, try and find out the only winning move, or a move that can give you a very high advantage in this position. Have at it. So congratulations to everyone who's able to find this move. The move is basically just rook a to d1. You are already occupying so much square. Why not just get those rooks very much active and oppose those pieces? But in this position, bishop to f2 was played, which is a good move, but this is like the third or fourth best recommended move, because in this position, the trouble with this is that after rook captures and bishop captures, it also, you can go for this rook captures instead of this bishop captures. Then you get a chance to be able to come back into the game. Let's say you just go for knight to e7, reroute the again to d5. You can go for knight to f. You can just go for this very nice bishop to e6, and the game goes on with roughly both players having equal chances. Somewhere along the line, you're going to play that as well, and well, you would have some chances. But after this bishop to f2, rook captures on e1 was not played. Here rook a to e8 was played, and now, well, the advantage is right back in Donchenko's court, and he needs to find the right idea. Here rook caps on e7 was played, knight captures, and now just comes this rook to e1. So what do you do in this position? Well, the natural move just seems to be knight to d5, right? Why not just go for it? But even in that line that I showed you just a while ago, I played bishop to e6 first instead of going for this. But in this position, knight to d5 was played by Anish, and again, is this the best choice? Because, well, you are allowing the trade to happen with both of the rooks gone off the board. You would have some very less chances because you don't have space, and one mistake would cost you the game. Here rook captures, queen captures was played. Now just comes this knight caps on f5. So you have sacked a piece here, sacked a pawn here in this position. So what do you do now? Because in this position, the best move is just bishop to e6. It's an important move to centralize the bishop in this position, because let's say you try to go for bishop to e4, just get the bishop and make that bishop turn into a good bishop, and after queen to d7, now attacking that, just knight to h4. And now after knight to f6, now you just play bishop to d3. You don't want to trade that knight for a bishop, and after bishop caps on h3, finally just grabbing back that pawn, f5 will be played, and after queen to f7, you just play queen to e2, bishop to g4, and the game goes on with roughly both players having decent enough chances to be able to try and win this, or at least draw this. And yes, black is pushed on to the back foot and white is controlling a lot of squares, but still you would have some chances, and this was the best way to go about this. But after knight caps on f5, here knight to b4 was played, attacking the queen, and now you're in some trouble, because here just queen to b1 and here queen to h5, trying to activate the queen. But you can see the engine evaluation shifting, and that's only because now you have a chance to be able to try and annoy black in this position, because already with the pieces being very passive, now one move and you're going to be in trouble. And Anish is down on clock. He has roughly 21 minutes to be able to find all these ideas, and it's not about the moves, it's just that it's easy for white to find all of these moves. Obviously the queen and the bishop are attacking this. You're never gonna most likely go for g4, because you don't want to ruin the pawn structure. So most likely what you want to do is just move the knight. So what is the best square in this position to try and move the knight to? It is knight to d6, and that's exactly what Donchenko plays. So that's why here, once you have an easy position where you're controlling most of the squares, the moves that are the best move in the position just comes naturally, and that's the advantage that Donchenko has in this position. He just bishop caps on h3 was played, So you must be thinking, why did I just give up a clean pawn? I mean, better to just ruin the pawn structure than to lose a pawn, right? Well, not in this situation, because here after bishop caps on h3, which was played in the game, now just comes queen captures by Anish, and in this position just queen to g6, and this is the reason why a queen to d7 was played, defending against any checks in this position and also any mating nets. Now what would have come in this position, a best move, that you just point and give everything to black. You are like, I'm just going to go king to g2. I'm just going to play a waiting move in this position, and whatever you want to do in this position, you can just go right at it, and I'll see what you have, because you don't have anything. That's the trouble. Even if you go for this bishop captures, says come c captures, and after queen to f7 asking for a trade, you just go for f5, and f5 is going to be a nuisance, because the trouble is this is taken. Once that pawn comes there on g6, everything is going to be taken, and I can just push the pawn and I can win the game. And most likely that what would have happened, a queen to d5 check, and after king to h2, queen to d2, just attacking that king to g2, again queen to d5 check. You can go for king to h3 if you try to go for, then you lose the advantage. The move that you want to play in this position is actually again king to h2, and once you try to go for this king to h2, the trouble is if you try to go for it this again, I have this very nice queen to e6 check, and that's how I can just try and move forward and try to win this game. But after queen to d5, king to h3, if you try to go for, this loses, because now you're allowing the queen to enter into the position, and that comes with the check. After king to g4, just queen to e4 check, and after king to h5, queen to f3 check, and that connects with the bishop. But you don't have to worry about the bishop in this position, because here after g4, now you're not in time to capture the bishop, and here just bishop blocks, knight to d3 and queen to e6 check. You are most likely not going to be in time, because the king is very weak. Also a fork is coming, so you need to be careful, and the game will go on most likely. But this king to h2 move is very much important in this position, and that's what would have won the game. But after this queen to d7, f5 was played immediately, and f5 is not a good move. But what Anish played in this position, he finds the right idea. He goes for knight to d5, but now just comes bishop to d4, and still you're in a lot of trouble because your pieces are passive. Here queen to e7 was played, and after queen to e7, just king to f1, b5 in this position, trying to create some counterplay, but here just a4. Now just comes b caps on a4, b captures, and in this position you could have also gone for this b caps on a4, and after this knight to e3 check, just played bishop captures, queen captures, queen to e6, and after this queen caps on e6, just f captures, and after g6 you would get this end game where most likely this will be a draw, because after knight to b7, king to g7, you're trying to capture that pawn, and after knight caps on a5, king to f6, you must be thinking, how do you even stop that pawn? It's very easy, because after knight caps on c6, bishop caps on c5, you can never actually push beyond this point. And the trouble for you is I can just capture this, and 2 against 1, even with the knight, most likely it's going to be a draw, because it higher after e7, bishop caps on e7, king to e2, bishop to c5. You can never actually try and even hold this position to anything more than a draw. And that's how, let's say king to f3, just h5 comes. If a5, then just comes king to f5. You can never push. All I have to do is just trade, and then I can just sack the bishop later, and most likely this will be a draw by insufficient material. So that's what I was talking about. But after b caps on a4, b caps on a4 was played, but now not with the line that I showed you here. Queen to d7 was played, and queen to d7 is a horrendous blunder in this position, which just blunders the game right on the spot. And it happened at a time for Anish that he is on move 36, and all he needed was just 4 more moves to be able to make time control. But Anish just completely blundered, and in this position, Alexander Donchenko, with 5 minutes on his clock, has to find the right idea. But can you find the right idea? You can pause the video, but I'm just going to show it to you. There's only one winning move in this position, and that just completely crumbles Anish's position. That move is f6, and Donchenko finds the idea, and Anish is in a lot of trouble. And immediately as he went for queen to d7, he was able to find this idea, and he was in utter shock that he is going to be eliminated from the tournament. And now he still tries. Hey, just knight caps on f6 was played, but unfortunately that you cannot do anything, because hey, just bishop captures, and you cannot even capture back because of this. So hey, queen to e6 was played, trying to capture it, but now just comes knight to e4, defending everything. Queen to c4 check, king to g2, queen to e2 check, king to h3, queen to f1 check. And in this position you can see king to h3 is the only winning move, as there was not in that other line that I showed you. King to g4 and queen to d1 check, king to f5, queen to d7 check, and after king to f4, just queen to e6 again. But now it's white's tempo, and white can actually play a move. So everything we did, all these checks, only led to white king's position just improving to a point where the knight is defended by the queen and also by the king, and now you can just win this game. Here g4 was played, and now the trouble for you is obviously you cannot capture, because knight captures just completely wins the queen. So here queen to c4 was tried, and the trouble for you is that you, even being there, you don't have any checks, and that's the problem. So here after queen to c4 was played, just bishop to c3, and after queen to f1 check, finally giving one check, but just comes king to e5, and it was on this move, on just move 47, that Anish resigned the game because the position is completely losing. You're a piece down. There is not much you can do. The end game is going to be completely over in a few more moves, and that's what he realized. So with that, Anish is unfortunately out of the tournament after a spectacular tournament in FIDE Swiss. He could not survive after round 2, and with that way, World Cup is really brutal. So basically, World Cup space absolutely no one. So yeah, thank you all for watching. I'll be coming back with some of these amazing games, so stay tuned to the channel, stay updated, and I'll be seeing you guys very soon. Thank you very much for watching.